Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Enemy of the People. I'm just recording a quick disclaimer. One I wouldn't have been recording had it not been for the fantastic reception of the first episode, which I'm incredibly grateful for, wasn't expecting, and I'm blown away by. What you're about to see isn't really an episode of Enemy of the People. It's essentially a repurposed VOD that was taken from a live stream where I was discussing what was happening in Afghanistan pretty much a couple of days after it had happened. And there just really isn't anywhere else to put that, because I said if I was going to do any kind of political coverage or media coverage, it was going to go in this podcast. Now, why am I recording a disclaimer? Not because what you're about to see is shocking or, not entertaining or not a representative of my views or anything like that. No. The reason for the disclaimer is there'll be an appreciable drop in quality for what I want this series to be. And for every episode of Enemy of the People, you can be assured I am going to research and source everything that I put into it and script it and pre-record it. And it's certainly the most work I've ever put into any of my podcasts. Usually when you're just researching an interview or, pulling a few headlines together for an episode by the numbers or whatever it is, that's relatively simple. These scripts run for thousands of words. They take days to pull all the links together and then kind of assess, am I being fair with that? I kind of check all my own internal biases to make sure what I put out there is balanced. And I think that's important, because the last thing I would want is for the series to become emotive hyperbole, which is indeed the exact thing I'm trying to set it up to combat. So I don't know when this episode will come out, whether you'll have seen the second episode by this point. I'm hoping this is going to be episode 3. But even so, I want to just make sure that you guys know this is just something to sort of tide you over between episodes and not actually a scripted version of the show, nor is it representative of the quality you'll expect moving forward. So there you are. All the same, I hope it proves to be informative. I hope it outlines just how much of a clusterfuck things are in Afghanistan right now and how badly the Biden administration has bungled it. I have noticed that at the time of recording this, the media are moving towards, hey, it's actually not all that bad. What did you expect to happen? This was always planned. So no doubt when I get round to doing the pre-recorded Afghanistan episode, it's going to be interesting to look back on this, these live reactions and live responses, and kind of compare the two. Anyway, as always, thanks so much for the support. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and I'll see you next time. 7 months into the Biden presidency, right? I hope people can sort of understand just how much of an easy ride he's had so far, especially from the press, given how much of a terrible job his administration has done. And it's an objectively terrible job. All the things I was told that would happen under Trump that never manifested have happened in the first 7 months of the Biden presidency. There's just no getting away from that, right? What was I told about Trump, right? I was told he would crash the economy because he's an egomaniac who says ridiculous things. They had a pretty strong economy up until COVID happened, and then it was on its way to repair until Biden happened, right? So that didn't go down. Now you have compound inflation. People can't afford to put gas in their cars. The gas stations can't afford to put gas in the pumps to even have you buy it at an exorbitant price, because inflation is at like 5.2 at the moment, right? Biden's had to come out and beg other oil-producing companies to produce more oil so they can lower the price in America. If that had happened to Trump, you would crucify him. You would crucify him, perhaps even literally, given the way the American media has gone. So I was told Trump would collapse the economy. He didn't. He did well in that, right? I mean, that's the one thing most people would say. And jobs and prosperity matters to people more than a lot of bullshit. Because that's just your food on the table, roof over your head. That's just the essentials. I was told that there would be some sort of insane crisis at the border. as his, building a border wall precipitated a surge of desperate immigrants to get there before the wall was built. Actually, what ended up happening was illegal immigration dropped. And he did some shit I didn't like. Don't approve of the separation policy. The separation policy, where they separated children from their parents, existed for a month, like 6 weeks. People never shut up about it. There were 700 children that were displaced, and they didn't find their parents. And this was a national news story, as it should be. It's a horrible humanitarian violation. Should never have happened, right? Biden's got more kids now locked up away from their parents, and I think an estimate was 10,000. So, it's like, well, I guess that thing happened. I mean, to be fair, Biden is fucking collecting humanitarian crises like they're fucking Dragon Balls at the moment with his shit that's gone on in Afghanistan. He's fucked up domestically, he's fucked up at the border, he's fucked up with the economy. Meanwhile, under the Trump regime, despite the controversial decision to bring the U.S. embassy back to Jerusalem and all that stuff, at the end of his tenure, you had people from like the United Arab Emirates signing trade agreements with Israel. I never thought that could happen. There was an Arabic leader, a Netanyahu, at the fucking at a Jewish Holocaust museum together shaking hands. It's the closest we ever had to peace in the Middle East while I've been alive. Now, Kabul has fucking fell. And, as we'll get into, the Taliban now has fucking, approximately $100 million worth of arms and armaments. And the Taliban even has an air force now, thanks to Joe Biden. I think Biden's done a bad job in his first 7 months. Now, call me a fucking right-wing, talking point, spewing demagogue, but all the rules were set. This is how we're going to treat presidents now. They didn't say we were just doing it because it was Republicans, even though, of course, they were just doing it because it was a Republican. They said this is now a part of a new aggressive form of journalism, an adversarial form of journalism that we have to do in order to ensure our leaders are held accountable. Anybody who voted for Biden knowingly put someone with dementia in the White House, and we're starting to see the chaos that ensues from warring factions in the Democrat Party and a senile, infirm leader, an incompetent leader. These are the wages of sin, guys. You did this if you voted for it because you couldn't handle. You got gaslit by a bunch of media companies that told you Joe Biden was a saintly figure and definitely not a corrupt politician and definitely in no way racist, despite his segregationist past and the fact he wrote the crime bill that disproportionately ruined the lives of black Americans. He introduced the 3 strikes law that has plagued those communities. You convinced yourself of that, and you went out and you put out a man who cannot even read off a teleprompter in the fucking White House. So I hope you feel ashamed, because there is no forgiving that. All the shit that got flung at Trump supporters, people getting twatted round the head with baseball bats for wearing a red baseball cap that wasn't even a Make America Great Again hat. Just the colour red was off limits for headwear for 4 years. What do you dickheads deserve then? All right, sorry, you couldn't have possibly known. Don't worry, though. We'll get into it. Let's start at the beginning. Afghanistan. It's an absolute fucking disaster. It's a disaster, by the way, that people are trying to somehow not all. The media is turning a little bit. I'll give them their due. And there's a lot of political theatre around this. So as you may know, Trump actually created a peace agreement with the Taliban. Now, I'm not a fan of the Taliban for reasons we'll get into on this show. I obviously am old enough to remember the atrocities they committed in the 90s, and I'm of the mindset that these people shouldn't be recognised as being any way legitimate. And if I'd had my way, they would have gone the same way as ISIS, right? But For whatever reason, that wasn't the strategy in Afghanistan. They shouldn't have been in Afghanistan in the first instance because Afghanistan had nothing to do with 9/11, no matter how much fake bullshit intelligence they put out there. Osama bin Laden was never there, right? He was in Pakistan, a US ally. But don't worry about it. Don't think about it. 20 years occupying a country predicated on falsehoods because, damn, they do have a lot of oil and opium, though. So Afghanistan was a clusterfuck. We should have pulled out beforehand. You can believe that America should pull out. America should have pulled out. One of the ways they get you in the fucking warmongering, machinery of politics is they always say the same thing, like, yeah, we shouldn't have fought this war, actually, but we can't just leave. Because if we leave, it'll descend into chaos. So guess we're just going to have to stay here and spend all that budget. That's what they say. We'll be out. Don't worry. And 20 years down the road, they go, there's just no convenient moment. So you can believe, and I certainly do believe that the US should have pulled out of Afghanistan. Like, fucking, they should never have been there. But fine. They should have pulled out like 15 fucking years ago when it was apparent bin Laden wasn't there. But whatever. That doesn't mean that this level of incompetence and people's lives being put in danger is acceptable. And especially when you start getting into it and you realize the only reason what's happening in Afghanistan is happening is because Joe Biden, a demented man, close to death, wants to cement his legacy as a truly great political figure in America. And so he wanted everyone out so he could turn around on the anniversary of September the 11th and go, it's all over now, Joe fixed it. That's what it's all about. He wanted to get everybody out by this September the 11th deadline, the 20th anniversary of September the 11th, so he could cement his reputation as some sort of inspirational political figure. That's it. That's why all of this is happening. So, I'll call out the GOP, because people always say you don't do both sides. But I do both sides, because I hate both sides. And I say that American politics essentially boils down to you have two criminal enterprises and they just cloak their criminality by lying about their intentions. The blue criminal family tells you they're doing it for upward social mobility for marginalized groups, and the red criminal family tell you they're doing it to preserve the American dream and freedom for all and making money and profiting in the economy. And it turns out they're both full of shit, and as soon as the cameras go away, they get behind the door and they're all shaking hands and slapping each other on the back and doing deals and doing self-enrichment and getting wealthy during the pandemic and contracts for companies that they just so happen to sit on the board on, and everyone goes, well, at least they said the thing. At least they said the thing I believe. They're not enacting it in any way, but they said it. That's American politics. But the GOP, they did do a little bit of posturing. One of the things they did when they realized that Afghanistan was going to absolute shit, they basically said, like, well, quick, we don't want this laid on Trump's doorstep because we know that's where it's going to be laid. You can see here, Republicans delete web page celebrating Trump's deal with the Taliban. This was on the official Republican National Committee webpage where they were talking about how it was great and how it was historic and Donald Trump done it and the Republican Party done it. And then when this shit started going down, they were like, fucking hell, no way. Don't want any of this. Take it down so we can go on Fox News and say this is all Joe Biden. Now, that being said, right, they've done it like it was just a bad tweet rather than a proclamation of fucking political intent. Because everything gets memory hold these days. The fact was that the original deadline put forward by Trump was at the end of May. Biden extended that deadline because he wanted it to be closer to September the 11th. And also was under no obligation. Think of all the other things he's walked back with Trump. Border wall spending, cancelled that, no problem. You know, there was just loads of stuff he's changed from the Trump administration. Certain policies down at the border, not just the border wall. You know, he's come in and he's elected to go ahead and do this withdrawal. Because, again, the closer we can get it to September, and then they pushed it back to the end of August, the better he looks, the more legacy he's going to get out of his time as president, his one term. So let's go to July the 8th and let's just hear Almighty Joe in his own words.
Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
Your own intelligence community has assessed that the Afghan government will likely collapse.
That is not true.
Can you please clarify what they have told you about whether that will happen or not?
That is not true. They did not reach that conclusion.
So what is the level of confidence that they have that it will not collapse?
The Afghan government and leadership has to come together. They clearly have the capacity to sustain the government in place.
And do you see any parallels between this withdrawal and what happened in Vietnam with some people feeling?
None whatsoever. Zero. What you had entire brigades breaking through the gates of our embassy. 6, if I'm not mistaken. The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not at all comparable. So the question now is, where do they go from here? That the jury is still out. But the likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
So, it's nothing like the fall of Saigon. It's nothing like Vietnam. Nothing like it at all. Let's just have a quick look at the pictures side by side. And this is photograph number 1, which is a diplomat being evacuated from the US Embassy via helicopter in Kabul. And let's just have a look how it went down in Saigon. A US diplomat being evacuated from an embassy as the Viet Cong took over and swarmed Saigon. Now, listen, I can obviously see no parallels whatsoever between what happened with people clamoring on the roof to desperately get off the building and get onto a helicopter. And also, as well, I did see this, which interested me coming across my Twitter feed. This is not Saigon, says Secretary Blinken of Afghanistan. And having literally been in Saigon for the fall of Saigon, it certainly looks like the fall of Saigon to me. But there are no parallels. In fact, what's interesting is we had CNN come in, and despite the gravity of the situation, they wanted to do a bit of a news breakdown where they said it was just memes.
In that same press conference that the president held on Afghanistan, he was asked if he was worried there could be any situation where what you're seeing happening with the evacuation in Afghanistan could look like that of Saigon in 1975. Of course, those images of people being loaded onto a helicopter. Now we are seeing from Clarissa and Nick Payton-Walsh on the ground, helicopters hovering over the U.S. embassy there. And so, when he was asked about this, he said none whatsoever, zero. But now we have these lasting images of U.S. helicopters in Afghanistan shuttling people back and forth. So what do you make of that?
I think this imagery is something that, first of all, is being shown around the world. This is a comparison that's being made.
There are memes already tearing around the Arab and Islamic world of the two photos side by side of Chinooks going into the U.S. embassy and pulling people out in Kabul.
And if I'm a betting woman, you're going to see some of those ads by Republican campaigns or dark money campaigns heading into the midterms and the 2024 election.
Just memes, guys. Just memes. Definitely not very realistic photographic comparisons of a humanitarian crisis unfolding in a country that America has ultimately betrayed by feeding them to the Taliban. I also do want to just bring up as well what went down in June. I think it's probably relevant to this segment. And this is where, so this is before Biden said there was nothing to worry about. This is Blinken. Again, you might remember me on another stream. I said this guy was a fucking disaster, a war hawk, and an incompetent, incredibly. And this is what he had to say in June about the whole deal.
And I feel very confident on the National Defense Authorization. We will increase that cap that you're requesting. Again, though, we only have 2 months before the DoD is completely out of Afghanistan, leaving these people behind. Is the department considering a process to get them out of country while these claims are being processed that I've been told could take up to a year or 2 possibly?
So what he's bringing up there, in case you haven't followed the story, is that even as early as June, intelligence officials and other government officials were saying to the administration that there is going to be a repatriation process, getting people out of Afghanistan, not just American citizens and all the people around the apparatus of governance in that country, but we're also going to have to think about what do we do for our allies. We cannot leave Afghani force, Afghan soldiers that fought with us to face the wrath of the Taliban. There's going to be reprisals. The Taliban is a brutal regime. They have killed thousands of people domestically. They have done all sorts of atrocities. So we should have a policy in place, because getting everybody repatriated could take a fucking while. To which Secretary Blinken replied,
2 things quickly. We're considering every option, yes. Second, I don't think that the fact that our forces are withdrawing, one, we're not withdrawing, we're staying. The embassy is staying, our programs are staying. We're working to make sure that other partners stay. We're building all of that up. And whatever happens in Afghanistan, if there is a significant deterioration in security, that could well happen. We've discussed this before. I don't think it's going to be something that happens from a Friday to a Monday. So I wouldn't necessarily equate the departure of our forces in July, August, or by early September with some kind of immediate deterioration in the situation.
That's the guy in charge of the shit that Biden appointed. So again, but kind of stops with Joe. Let's just go over some of the scenes on the ground, because I know this is going to probably stagger you. Now, I can't show you a lot of the scenes that I think would be the most powerful because of Twitch rules, but I also can't think of a world where the predecessor to Joe Biden would have been given the same sort of leeway when people have literally died trying to get onto planes. I'm going to cover the tragic story about an Afghan teenager that tried to hold on to the landing gear of a plane and plummeted to his death. Was a member of the under-19s national football team. Just a boy, just a teenager. It is absolutely shocking how bad this failure is on behalf of Biden. And to give you an idea of the chaos, here's what I can show you. This video is, this is what was happening as Kabul fell. So, not at all like the fall of Saigon, actually. I believe that was slightly more orderly and safe. This also comes with the understanding that the people that made it to the airport, some are just stranded there. They're the lucky ones. The people that are now trying to get to the airport can't get to the airport because the Taliban have took over the routes to the airport, and so you're risking being captured and executed. There have already been a number of deaths. Again, obviously I can't show you, but there is video footage circulating. They've already killed a police chief, for example. I believe there's already been a journalist killed as well. Reprisals are coming to all these people, and this is all on Joe Biden. This is all on Biden's hands. There's no dressing it up. You can try and pin it on Trump because of the date all you want. As we'll get into, Biden ignored critical intelligence that had he listened, had he not pushed for the September the 11th date, this wouldn't be happening right now. We can have a bit of levity, I suppose, because CNN can never really help themselves. They're comical when they're not even trying to be comical. This was, again, on the ground. They've done some stellar reporting.
Death to America, but they seem friendly.
This is a journalist saying the Taliban are chanting death to America, but they're actually friendly at the same time.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
Certainly is. It's utterly bizarre that the phrase death to America could ever be assessed as a friendly bon mot between two parties that just have an understanding. But what I will say is that's Clarissa Ward on your screen there. She has done stellar work in Afghanistan, some of which we'll get to in a moment. She's been on the ground in a very dangerous and precarious situation. She has certainly made sure that she isn't running covering fire for the Biden administration. She has shown the atrocities at great personal risk to herself, and that is what CNN used to be about. That is what CNN used to do as a matter of course. Incredible that the standards have fallen so far in such a short time, that this is a standout. I'll also just give you some of the assorted videos. Taliban were in fine mood. These videos courtesy of The Independent. They raided a theme park. They struggled to use gym equipment. And because it's the Taliban, for the future regime they will install, where you will not be allowed to enjoy anything that they deem to be against their perverse interpretation of Sharia law, they burnt down that amusement park the next day. Burn it to the ground so people that will have to live under their oppressive regime will not be able to use it, because never has an organization embodied rules for thee, not for me, more than the Taliban. Let's now talk about something more harrowing. Obviously, I already alluded to it. The death of the young teenager Zaki Anwari. Zaki Anwari is the person that fell from the landing gear of an American troop carrier trying desperately to get out of his country. Had a bright career ahead of him, a bright future as a footballer, desperate to escape, believing that because of the Taliban views towards sports, that he would be somehow indoctrinated. Remember, by the way, this is a group of people who believe if you do not have a beard, that is an executable offense. Those of us who were around in the 90s know what the Taliban is all about. So, this is the Guardian report on it. It was confirmed by the Afghan news agency, Ariana, and this is from Ariana News. The General Directorate of Physical Education and Sports of Afghanistan confirmed Zaki Anwari, a player from the national youth football team, is among hundreds of the young people who tried to leave the country by clinging to US military plane. Anwari fell and died, and it's since been corroborated that in that video you'll have seen go viral, that person falling to the tarmac is indeed Anwari. I'll read the rest. The US Air Force Office of Special Investigation said it was reviewing all available information regarding the C-17 aircraft, as well as the loss of civilian lives. Without getting too gory into the details, when they landed the C-17, it had to take an emergency landing. There were human remains discovered in the wheel well of the plane, and this meant that it literally ran over civilians. It crushed them. It crushed them and chewed them up. Again, hard to think of a world where something that horrific being perpetrated by a Republican president would kind of fly. But instead, of course, it's been downplayed. I mean, sure, the American media never really has cared about lives in the Middle East, has it? In addition to that, you have the news that thousands are currently stranded, unable to get to the airport, while the Taliban are going door to door and basically capturing people with a potential view to executing any dissidents or anyone that doesn't want to re-assimilate into their new regime. This isn't a few people. This is tens of thousands of people. Tens of thousands of foreigners and Afghans who collaborated with the US and NATO forces remain stranded in Kabul as governments grappled with an overwhelming backlog of visas and Taliban checkpoints which were preventing people safely reaching the airport. With a 31st of August deadline set by Biden for complete US withdrawal looming, tens of thousands of people eligible for US evacuation were yet to be airlifted out, many of whom were among the crowds gathered around Kabul airport brandishing their papers and proof they had worked with the US military on their bases. The UK government was also struggling to evacuate its allies. These people have been completely fucking sold down the river. These people have been put at personal risk. Many of these people will die. They will not get out. So, again, it's hard to think of a worse betrayal for allies that fought against a very dangerous, very oppressive regime. Hilariously, although not, I mean hilariously in the sickest, darkest interpretation, it turned out that two US officials had told Reuters that Biden was actually concerned of the potential political impact of the optics of a large number of Afghan refugees flowing into the United States and preferred that they would be sent to third countries. So, in other words, and this is from Ted Hessen, the guy who covers DC politics at Reuters. You know, I seem to remember a time where the president saying, I don't want people coming into the country. I'd rather they went somewhere else. That was fascism. That was racism. That was Nazism. Apparently, that little tidbit of information, not worth 2 to 3 weeks of hand-wringing about. No, absolutely not. The double standard is real. Now, in terms of the operation to rescue people, where are we at? Well, let's have a look, shall we? Let's check in and see what the American government has got to say about it at a press conference.
Barb, between extracting someone in an in extremis condition or circumstance versus going out and collecting up large numbers of American citizens.
Do you have the capability to go out and collect Americans?
We don't have the capability to go out and collect up large numbers of people, Barb.
We don't have the capability to go out and collect large numbers of people, which kind of, to me, and again, I am but a layman in politics, you know, my views are obviously just right-wing talking points and I don't know what I'm talking about. But it does seem to me that if this was planned for months in advance, probably having the capability to extract large numbers of people should have been something that should have been handled first and foremost. And once that was there, that's when you roll out your plan. So if the worst does happen, you can at least get people out. But don't worry, that's fine. They'll totally skate with that. Not their fault. There'll be some excuses. Who are we going to blame? Maybe we'll blame the Afghanis. It was also intimated around about this time, don't forget, why didn't the Afghanistan forces fight? Then you start looking into that and you start realizing that, all of that money we were supposedly spending was suddenly disappearing. People were demoralized, not getting their salaries. It was a shit show, guys. You've been lied to about Afghanistan for decades. They are full of shit. You end up with desperate scenes like this one. This is a story about how desperate women were throwing their babies over the razor wire at the compound to soldiers to get them out of the country. This happened on a number of occasions. You'll have seen the viral videos. They just wanted the soldiers to take away the children so they would be safe. And so again, how these people are going to be reunited, what happens to these children when they're brought back to America, assuming they are, who knows? It's rough. It really is bad. And again, all happening on Joe Biden's watch. And then, just as a slap in the face, the people who are going to get repatriated, this story is stomach-turning. The people who are going to be repatriated have been told repatriation flights are not free, and passengers have to sign a promissory loan agreement, and they may not be eligible to renew U.S. passports until the loan is repaid. Yes, you heard that correctly. If you want to get out, you have to agree to pay $2,000, and if you cannot repay that loan, they will cancel your U.S. passport. Liberation DLC, ladies and gentlemen. You didn't think it could happen? It did. And as I said, not to mention, that's if you can even get to the airport. You probably can't. This was another message posted to the U.S. Embassy. The U.S. government cannot ensure safe passage to the airport. Remember, this applies to U.S. citizens and Afghan allies alike. You are on your fucking own. We fucked up. We're out. We're probably not coming back. Let's hope you can get out in 11 days. There is no, there's no silver lining to this, guys. There it is. You can see here. I'll shrink myself. The U.S. government provided flights are departing Kabul and will continue until the evacuation operation is complete. The U.S. government cannot ensure safe passage to the airport. We are processing people at multiple gates. Due to large crowds and security concerns, gates may open or close without notice. Use your best judgment and attempt to enter the airport at any gate that is open. Actions that you can take: be aware of your surroundings at all times, especially large crowds. Follow the instructions of local authorities, including movement restrictions and curfews. Have a contingency plan for emergencies and review the traveler's checklist. Monitor local media for breaking events and adjust your plans based on that information. And enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program to receive alerts to make it easier to locate you in an emergency. Well, thanks a bunch. Thanks a bunch. Next up, in not so many words, they did say August 31st is the hard deadline. This was on, again, CNN, their coverage. This is a White House communications director, and they wouldn't be sort of couched on committing one way or the other, but they said we're doing everything we can to get as many people out who want to get out, which is fucking all of them, by the way, who wants to stick around before August the 31st. The tacit implication there being, if we can't get you out by 31st, you're fucked.
President Biden will speak to the American people this afternoon as he faces accusations that he has badly botched the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. This criticism is coming not only from his usual critics, but also from some of his most reliable allies, both here in America and abroad. Let's talk about this now with the White House Communications Director, Kate Bedingfield. Kate, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really do want to focus on the humans in this situation. We've been seeing pictures out of Kabul. We've been seeing pictures from inside and outside the airport. And the first thing I want to ask you is, we've heard from the Pentagon that they have the capacity to get 5,000 to 9,000 people out of the Kabul airport a day. There were only 3,000 in the last 24 hours. That means empty seats or empty floor. What is the administration doing to get to that number that you do have the capacity for?
Everything within our power, Brianna. The president is laser focused on getting every American who wants to get out of Afghanistan, and our Afghan allies as well. So he has directed the Department of Defense and the team working on this to use every possibility available to them to increase the number of people that we're getting out. Look, I would say, overnight, we announced that we've evacuated 9,000 people since Kabul fell, and we're up to 14,000 people since July.
So that 9,000 in 6 days. But Kate, I do want, if you laser focus, so where are the issues then? What issues are you addressing to get to that number?
We're working to move airplanes more quickly. We are working to ensure that we can get people into the airport. Obviously, look, this is an incredibly violent and chaotic scene on the ground. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for our troops who are there working to get people out. So we are trying to move quickly. As the Pentagon would say, speed is safety. And we're working to get people out as quickly as possible and working through all of the logistical challenges on the ground and problem solving in real time.
So when they say they're working as hard as they can to get people out as fast as they can because speed is safety, well, why don't we go to our woman on the ground, Clarissa Ward, and let's see what she's got to say about how fast the response has been. Here we go. CNN's Clarissa Ward, same news network. Let's have a listen.
Been at the airport now for 12 hours and on the airfield for 8 hours. And during the last 8 hours, the time that we've been waiting here, we have not seen a single U.S. flight evacuate people. We saw one U.S. flight take off about half an hour to an hour ago, but it was filled with U.S. servicemen and women. The people who have been sitting on the tarmac for the last 10 hours have not been able to get on a flight, which means, Kate, because we did the whole sort of process today, that all the other bottlenecks are now even more choked. Because if the flights aren't moving and the people aren't moving, then they can't bring in more people. And so what's emerging quite clearly here is, it's a chaotic scene. You have people lying on the floor with their babies. It's incredibly loud here. Obviously, we're on an airfield. There's all sorts of aircraft around. Mothers trying to put their hands over their babies' ears. It's one thing to be here for a couple of hours, but these people have been on the airfield for 10 hours. And before that, 2 days. 2 days, Kate, to try to get through this airport, beginning with the crush and the beatings at the Taliban checkpoints, and then the very, very slow process of getting through the various U.S. checkpoints before you get to the airfield. And, there's just no supplies here. People are standing in the scorching 90-degree sunshine for hours on end. We saw a tiny newborn baby being evacuated in emergency for medical care because she was completely dehydrated and had sunstroke. I've seen U.S. soldiers handing out strips of cardboard to be used as makeshift fans. I mean, that's the level that we're dealing with. There's no tent. There's nothing for these people. And these are the lucky ones.
These are the lucky people. That's Clarissa Ward. I strongly recommend you follow her on Twitter if you have any interest in this. She is the one journalist on the ground actually doing some work about this and sort of chronicling the unfolding horror. And let me tell you, it gets worse from this point on. Not better, no matter how much spin the Biden administration are going to come out with. Things are getting worse. So far, the Taliban has actually played along to some degree. You heard her there. They were letting people through checkpoints just with some beatings and, moderate cajoling. Things get worse for the people left behind. And there's not going to be enough ink to print out the horrific, lurid headlines that are going to come out of Afghanistan in the next few days. So I do recommend that you give her a follow. She's doing great work. It must always be recognized. Now, what's another criticism we can level? Oh, actually, just before we get into that segment, also, here's another, just an extra dollop, an extra spoonful of chaos into the clusterfuck. There's an interview on ABC News with a civilian who's there trying to get out. And what he started talking about is people are forging documents that were handed out by the American government to ensure people could have these visas and entry processes. And it turns out they don't even know if there's a way to actually check the authenticity of the documents. Another thing leading to this backlog, because rather than just get people the fuck out and deal with the shit later, the Biden administration doesn't want the bad optics of maybe letting in, people that shouldn't be in. Meanwhile, being totally cool with what's going on at the southern border.
So this morning at around 9 a.m., I received an email from the the U.S. Embassy Consular Services Department. And they said, we have created a document to help, American citizens and like eligible SIV recipients and applicants get to the airport. And it is this document. I printed it just for you guys. Okay. This looks like a US visa. Okay. So for those of you who aren't familiar, if you get a US visa, an immigrant visa in your passport, this is what it looks like. But this document has no name. It's not addressed to anyone. There's no serial number, okay, at the bottom. There's no barcode. So thousands of Afghans received this. Basically, everyone who had applied for SIV, these special immigrant visas for the Afghan translators and other people, they received this email. And what do you think happened when these people received an email like this, a document like this, that has no name? Of course, they printed out 100 copies. Even the Taliban can't control, 2,000 or 3,000 people at the Camp Sullivan Gate when you have tens of thousands of Afghans who now have this kind of ridiculous, bogus document that the State Department created. I mean, I don't know how else to explain something like this, an idea like this, except for brainworms. I mean, it's absurd.
What were they thinking? Brainworms indeed. But, when you elect President Brainworms, there's going to be brainworms, guys. I don't know what else to fucking tell you. Like, I can't dress it up for you. It's ridiculous. Anyway, what other charges can we lay at the Biden administration? I mean, apart from the fact they're closing in on a horrific humanitarian crisis, the ramifications for which we're going to feel for some time to come. Let's talk about what ended up happening with the military gear, because just prior to this, just prior to all of these scenes, just prior to them being announced, they've obviously sent out a ton of military equipment, approximately $89 million worth. They've just given it to the Taliban. All of that military gear is left behind, and it is now in the hands of guys who, much like the Mujahideen, they didn't really have a great military capability. A few Kalashnikovs, a few Jeeps, some RPGs. Now they have state-of-the-art military equipment. And I wish that was the end of it. Let me just give you an idea of what I'm talking about, right? Here's what they got. This is 100 US Humvees, some Max Pro MRAPs, some US Scan Eagle drones. This is billions of US taxpayer money, according to this chap. This is Julian Ropke, who's a journalist at Schlauberger, a German outlet. Look, this is what the Taliban have now. There they are. It's your boy. So they've got drone capability. They've got Humvees. They've got armored Jeeps, right? But doesn't stop there, of course. What else could we possibly give them? Ooh, what about an Air Force? This is the report over at The Hill that among the items seized by the Taliban are Black Hawk helicopters and an A-29 Super Tucano attack aircraft. I had to Google that because I'm not some fucking gun nut. Let me just show you one of these, right? There you go. It's not your dad's Taliban. Mind you, if they handle it like they handle gym equipment, this might be a fucking blessing in disguise. I don't know. But still probably would be better if they didn't actually have these weapons. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, right? Not just content with the weapons having fallen into Taliban hands. Pallets of dollars have fallen into Taliban hands because that's how they send their money out to Afghanistan. They send loads of dollars. I won't even go too deep into this because it'll be paywalled because it's the Wall Street Journal. But they had to stop shipments to Afghanistan of just pallets of money to try and stop the Taliban having the money. They've got the money. So we've given them weapons. We've given them hundreds of thousands, maybe more of dollars. What could be worse, guys? What could be worse? Oh, how about giving a terrorist organization biometric data of US soldiers and allies? What about that? Is that worse, guys? Is that bad? This is reported by The Intercept. The Taliban have seized US military biometric devices. The devices, known as HIIDE for handheld interagency identity detection equipment, were seized last week during the Taliban's offensive, according to a Joint Special Operations Command official and 3 former US military personnel, all of whom worried the sensitive data they contain could be used by the Taliban. These devices contain identifying biometric data such as iris scans and fingerprints, as well as biographical information, and are used to access large centralized databases. It's unclear how much of the US military's biometric database on the Afghan population has been compromised. So, as a layup, here you go. We've given you the drones, we've given you the jeeps, we've given you the guns, we've given you planes, we've given you attack helicopters, we've given you pallets of money, and here's the names and addresses and biometric data of all of our Afghan allies and US soldiers that you can either use to hunt them down and kill them, or you can use for cyber crimes and acts of terrorism. Take your fucking pick, boys. I had to listen for months about how the other guy was impeachable over a fucking phone call to the Ukraine. What the fuck is this then? Your rules, not mine. So, how does Biden respond to all of this mess? Obviously, I'm not covering it all in chronological order, but let's do this segment in some rough chronological order, so you can get an idea about how the Commander-in-Chief has been largely absent for the entirety of this nightmare, and then when he did manifest, like a bad dream, it turns out he's obviously in the throes of some sort of episode, because his senility, his dementia, it has been off the charts since this happened. I don't want to hear about sundowning. This guy is all over the fucking road, and it's not once, and it's not a stutter. It's bad, guys. It's really bad, and no wonder they are trying to keep this motherfucker under lock and key. On August the 14th, we got Biden's first response, a written response, where he said, and I will read you the killer quote, "I inherited a deal cut by my predecessor. I faced a choice. Follow through on the deal with a brief extension to get our forces and our allies' forces out safely, or ramp up our presence and send more American troops to fight once again in another country's civil conflict." All well and good, and again, just so you can see for yourself, this is the official statement from the White House, saying based on the recommendation of diplomats, the military, the intelligence team, he authorized the deployment of 5,000 troops, so we're sending them back in now just to make sure we can have an orderly and safe withdrawal. That doesn't seem to be happening. You've seen for yourself. Absolutely crazy. Then Axios, they did a report on it. Essentially, the White House was doubling down on the idea this was Trump's fault, guys. This was all Trump's fault. Biden blames Trump for Afghanistan bedlam. I don't really understand how or why, but apparently because he had to stick to the date he didn't have to stick to, which he didn't stick to because he moved it, it's Trump's fault or something. Okay, cool. Another double down, this time on ABC News. Let's have a listen in and see what the Biden administration has got to say in this news clip. And this was, again, August 16th.
Much the Biden administration defending its actions on the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, insisting their hands were tied by the previous administration. Let's get right to ABC's chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl. John, President Biden says it was President Trump who signed an agreement for the total withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan and set a deadline for them to all be out of the country by May 1st. Is he passing the buck here?
Well, yes, but on that narrow point, he is correct. There was an agreement that was negotiated by the Trump administration directly with the Taliban that called for the complete withdrawal of U.S. troops in Afghanistan by May 1st. What you are seeing on the ground right now in Afghanistan is, in a very real sense, the Trump-Biden policy. Because the bottom line is Biden agreed with the move to withdraw. He, in fact, pushed it back a bit from May 1st to saying troops would be gone by September 11th. But the bottom line is that both men, Trump and Biden, wanted to get out of Afghanistan and to get out entirely, and felt that after 20 years of war, it was time for Americans to come home. But Biden is the president. Biden owns the responsibility for the way this is being done right now. And his military advisors, as you heard Martha Raddatz refer to, his military advisors advised against a precipitous rapid withdrawal. They wanted for at least a time to see a force remain in Afghanistan. That agreement with the Taliban, it didn't include the Afghan government, not at all. There was no agreement between the Taliban and the Afghan government. And the military leadership and many others urged President Biden to hold back, at least for a while, before pulling all U.S. troops out.
They certainly did. They certainly said, look, mate, it's not going to fly. But he went ahead, that September the 11th date, his little historical moment, the thing that was going to cement his legacy of doing absolutely fuck all for 50 fucking years in government, except just heinous shit. This was the moment. This was his Obama moment. This is what he wanted. So this is why this has to happen. I'll just add a little bit of comedy into the mix. Joe Biden, who spent the initial period of time after the fall of Kabul saying, listen, Trump did this. It's his fault. It's his administration's fault. Even the people that are blaming Biden are saying, yeah, well, this is Trump-Biden policy. It's really, he's involved as well, right? But what did Joe Biden say? Back in 2020, he said, it's hard to believe this has to be said, but unlike this president, that chub orange boy, I'll do my job and take responsibility. I won't blame others, and I'll never forget the job isn't about me, it's about you, he said, causing a humanitarian crisis to have his little photo opportunity and blaming Trump for it going horribly fucking wrong. But don't worry, no one will remember this because you're not allowed to have a memory longer than 3 months and hold people accountable to the same standards. Orange man bad, Republicans bad, even when Democrats do the same thing Republicans do. Oh, now it's good now. Please don't look at the archives. I'll also just add as well, I saw one of the most outrageous takes off the back of this. And I don't want to get too much into cretins saying cretinous things, because we will be here all fucking night. But let's just show you this absolute ridiculousness. Sherry Jacobus, former GOP, one of those never-Trumpers, classic never-Trumper grifter. I was a hardcore Republican, but Donald Trump has broken all the norms, unlike President Biden defying Supreme Court orders, which was a 3-month news cycle when Trump did it for DACA, right? Now that we know Trump was setting a booby trap for Biden in Afghanistan, start pulling that thread. If you were out to sabotage Biden, think of every step, every move you'd make, and then understand that's what Trump did. Trump, Pompeo, Putin are enemies of America. It was all a ploy. The Russians did it. The Russians are doing Afghanistan right now. Let's rewind a bit and go to August the 15th. Meanwhile, Biden's still yet to officially address the nation with his mouth, doing what it barely does these days, spitting out sentences. They instead wanted to reassure everybody by putting out this tweet. They did a tweet, official White House tweet. This morning, the president and vice president, not pictured, met with their national security team and senior officials to hear updates on the drawdown of our civilian personnel in Afghanistan, evacuations of SIV applicants and other Afghan allies, and the ongoing security situation in Kabul. So there he is. Let's have a look at Joe. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, hasn't he? Slight problem with this, right? This is mental. Because first of all, if you look over there on this picture, it does just say CIA and just has pictures of people. So, naturally, this blew up, and people were saying, has Biden just accidentally outed CIA operatives? Well, we never know. There's been no official statement about that, right? People were also saying, is this a doctored picture? Well, why would they say that? Because if you look at the difference between Moscow and London, it's not the right amount of time that it should be, right? And so there's only two options. Either this was taken at a different time and it's a Photoshop, right? Or the fucking people that run the Situation Room don't know what British summertime is. They're your two options. They can't set a clock, and these are the people that are going to evacuate Kabul and save lives. So, unsurprisingly, the White House hasn't addressed that at all. There have been no responses to this. It was reported over in Yahoo. Here it is. Photo of Biden in national security meeting. By his fucking lonesome. Raises accuracy and security questions. A photo uploaded to Twitter by the White House on Sunday featuring President Joe Biden meeting virtually with intelligence officials has many on social media asking questions about the security or accuracy of the photo. Amid the growing crisis in Afghanistan, Biden met with Vice President Kamala Harris, CIA officials, and Doha Station, who were all photographed on the video call, though the names of the officials were not visible in the image. There were no security concerns regarding anyone in the photograph. A United States official familiar with the call told the Washington Examiner. Again, the Washington Examiner, you're relying on right-wing media to come on this because they just don't want to touch any of this administration's fuck-ups unless they absolutely have to. And they absolutely have to if it's the war machine. But other than that, Joe Biden's going to get a fucking pass for everything for 4 fucking years, except he's not going to do 4 fucking years, is he? He's going to do 2 fucking years. And then you're dealing with Kamala Harris, who took credit for this in Afghanistan 2 days before it went down, and then has not said another fucking word about it as it pans out. Watch that fucking headline get memory hold, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. This morning, the president, vice president met with their national security team. You've read that tweet. The former CIA clandestine service member John Cipher responded to the post saying, I hope none of those people on the screen are undercover. That's a former CIA operative, by the way, expressing their concerns for this picture. Twitter users also questioned why a clock depicted in the White House image showed incorrect times. The photo shows the time in London as 4:29 p.m. and 7:29 p.m. in Moscow. And although there was only a 2-hour time difference between the cities after the clocks went forward for the United Kingdom in March, time difference between London and Moscow is only 2 hours. It hasn't been 3 hours since March, said Boris Epstein, a strategic, not to be confused with the other name that sounds like it, a strategic advisor for former President Donald Trump's 2020 campaign. So the clock has been wrong since March. I mean, that's the best case scenario. Not to worry. PolitiFact did a whole post on it, unwinding the Camp David clock conspiracy. They don't arrive at a conclusion, guys. They don't arrive at a conclusion. Let's then get into some of the reaction around people directly involved. This was just a local report that I saw from something called the Spokesman Review. It's from the town of Spokane, Washington. It's an old school newspaper, local news. And they talk about Ryan Crocker, who's from there. And he is a former ambassador to Afghanistan. And I will read you his quote. They do end on it. It's down here. But I will read you what he says. He said, I'm left with grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief. To have read this so wrong, or, even worse, to have understood that it was likely to happen and not care. Ryan Crocker, U.S. ambassador to Afghanistan, formerly to Iraq. Now, so again, not a quote you're going to see highlighted anywhere, but there are the stirrings of dissent. He's fucked this up so badly. Slight problem was, while all this was going on, now, I don't know about you guys, I'm old-fashioned. I would have called this a crisis. I would have said this was a crisis. Apparently, Joe Biden didn't think this was a crisis. In fact, their initial statement, when it first came out, was, President Biden will address the nation in the next few days. Are you fucking serious? The next few days? Like, how about now, motherfucker? What's going on? But, you know, they were obviously giving him the fucking Regeneron or whatever they do to keep him upright. And so the timing of this was terrible because Sleepy Joe fucking needed to be in the hyperbolic time chamber. But it wasn't just Sleepy Joe. Jen Psaki, everyone's favourite former tanky press secretary, she set up an out of office. Reply. Joe Biden's press secretary, Jen Psaki, has been accused of vacationing amid turmoil in Kabul, Afghanistan, where the Taliban seized control of the country's capital weeks after the US president said it was highly unlikely. Miss Psaki, whose email address was returning automated out-of-office replies on Sunday, was accused of remaining silent on the issues as Americans were airlifted out of Kabul on the heels of an advancing Taliban. I mean, I like a Sunday off as much as the next person, but then again, I'm not the White House press secretary, and I'm not watching a humanitarian crisis I've created unfold. So maybe I should probably get my ass out of bed and back into work. Just a thought. By August 17th, Joe Biden. Right? Let's have a listen to this little clip. You might want to loop in with some people around the world, maybe some allies, maybe some world leaders. Maybe you can get some help. Maybe you can find out, address their concerns. Let's just have a listen.
Has the president spoken to any other world leaders since Kabul fell to the Taliban?
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong person. He has not yet spoken with any other world leaders. Myself, Secretary Blinken, several other senior members of the team have been engaged on a regular basis with foreign counterparts, and we intend to do so in the coming days. Right now, the main issue is an operational issue. It's about how we coordinate with them to help them get their people out.
So hang on, right? Is he the president or isn't he? I'm kind of confused. I'm guessing, probably might want to talk. I thought world leaders, they talk to each other, they have phones. Hasn't spoke to, so by August the 17th on the timeline, he's not spoke to another world leader, but some of his minions have. And actually, don't worry about it. We, not the president that you voted for, but we, the minions that you didn't vote for, that were appointed, we're talking with the world leaders about working all of this out. Where the fuck is Joe? Where is Joe? What's going on? You cannot take time off. You can't. But he did, right? It was even so bad that people started looking at his flight manifest to try and get an idea of what his plans were. This is on August the 18th. They found out he was planning to take a fucking long weekend in Delaware. Legit. It's there. They booked it. Also, because I live in Britain, the British, the British relationship, the British aspect of this is obviously of interest to me because British forces under the NATO mission were deployed as well, and there's British people out there that need to get out. And Boris Johnson's getting raked over the coals. Always good to see, fuck Bojo. And we've got our own situation going on. But I will tell you this: Biden's fucking right. I remember when fucking Trump went out and Boris Johnson had famously, it was reported, he'd called Trump like an arsehole, a cunt or something, right? And they were never meant to get on. And when Biden came in, Boris Johnson said, thank God, UK-US relations are back, baby. And then you read headlines like this, right? Biden ignored Boris Johnson's attempts to speak on the phone for 36 hours, according to a report in the Telegraph. He dodged the UK Prime Minister for 36 hours like he was a bad fucking Tinder date. And so I just want to remind you, right, this is what Boris Johnson said in June.
Prime Minister, you've had your first meeting with President Biden.
Yes.
You made it clear you don't like the phrase, the cliche special relationship.
Yes, right.
What are you two going to call it now?
I don't mind the phrase special relationship, but because it is special, and there's, but it's it encompasses a reality, which is that the UK and the US have a real congruence of views on some stuff that really matters to the world.
By the way, Joe Biden fans, that's a stutter.
In democracy, we believe in human rights. We believe in the rules-based international order. We believe in the transatlantic alliance. Joe Biden believes in that absolutely passionately.
Yeah,
and
really does.
We want to uphold that. We think it's been the guarantor of peace and security for a long time.
So how would you describe
we
any
also
affinity
we also happen to share objectives on tackling climate change and loads of other things. It's a relationship. You call it the deep and meaningful relationship, whatever you want, the indestructible relationship. It's a relationship that has endured for a very long time and has been an important part of peace and prosperity.
So it's indestructible, the relationship. That was June. It was indestructible. How's it going now after Biden swerved Boris Johnson's calls about the emergency situation unfolding in Kabul with British lives on the line while this incompetent fuck thinks he can have a holiday? Let's see. What's that done to the relationship according to the report from the Telegraph? And it says plunged to the lowest point in 25 years. Plunged to the lowest point in 25 years, mounting concerns among diplomats, ministers and MPs over the health of the indestructible special relationship. And it got really bad. Not that this matters to an American president. No one should ever give a fuck about the triflings of the British Parliament. But the Parliament said, right, we hold Joe Biden in contempt. This was on the 18th. MPs and peers united to condemn the dishonour of the US president's withdrawal and his criticism of Afghan troops left behind to face the Taliban. Mr. Biden, not President Biden, not when we're pissed off at him. This is how the British do things. We just don't say your titles. Mr. Biden was accused of throwing us and everyone else to the fire by pulling out US troops and was called dishonourable for criticising the Afghan forces for not having the will to fight. The intervention marks a deterioration in UK-US relations, almost exactly 20 years after Britain joined America in invading Afghanistan to root out terrorism after 9/11. There's your photo op, Joe. There's your photo op. Britain, the little bitches that fucking follow America around. Oh, what war would you like us to send working class men to die? Okay, yeah, it's another oil war, no problem. We'll be right there. Not going to be doing that no more, are we? So good job. Things got so bad, the quest for Joe, they were trying to find him. Even CNN wanted a piece of the action in making it known that he had to get in front of a camera and soon. This is Chris Cillizza, one of the biggest media shills of all time. He said Joe Biden isn't talking, at least not to the media. Where is he? Now, this all relates to an interview we are going to get into. Oh, Lord. But just before we get into the interview, that is really going to convince anyone who was on the fence that he's not very well. Let's just also show you, I can't even believe, if you can listen to this without being sick or buckling with laughter, you're a better person than me. This was, of course, the White House communications director made this outlandish claim.
Kate, before we let you go, will President Biden, after his remarks today, take questions? He's given a couple of speeches. He did the interview with ABC News, but the White House press corps and the American people have a lot of direct questions for him. Will he take those today?
The president never shies away from taking questions. I'll let him make a decision if he's...
Never shies away from questions. This is the guy who, by the way, after he was fucking elected, didn't do a meet the press for what? How many months? Was it 2? Was it 3? But never shies away. Now, just in regards to the holiday, good news, everyone. After all the people online shaking their fist, where's Joe? Where's Joe? Look at the terrible optics of him having a holiday. He actually turned around and basically said, this is according to Zeke Miller, another hack White House reporter at Associated Press, the president will not go to Delaware. He's going to stay in Washington. Yay! Joe's going to do his homework, guys, and not go out to play. It's also got to be said, it's on the record, right? If you're wondering how this gets fucked up so bad, Biden didn't even consult with allies that it might affect. This is now coming out. This is all breaking as I'm even doing this. So you can go look it up for yourself. But this is a report very early on in the proceedings, where back before that Kabul happened. And this was when they were saying that actually he wasn't consulting with allies about the proposed withdrawal. Right, here we go. It's down here somewhere. I'll read it to you. Some American allies privately gripe they weren't properly consulted before Biden announced he would withdraw U.S. troops by September the 11th. Some have also questioned how security can be maintained in the country when the U.S. troops leave, particularly at the Kabul International Airport and other diplomatic facilities. He didn't listen. He didn't consult. He pushed forward for the September the 11th photo update. This is obviously the Afghanistan collapse. This was from 16th, so, you know, a few days in what was going on in Kabul. Did the U.S. intelligence get it wrong? Remember, you saw Joe Biden himself. He said the U.S. intelligence did not say that. They did not. They did not. Well, if they didn't, they fucking sold you down the river. But let's have a look. As panicked Afghans watched Taliban fighters roll into the capital city of Kabul, sealing the collapse of the US-backed government there, many Americans were left wondering how top Biden officials could have been so wrong in their recent proclamations that Kabul would not easily fall. Just days ago, a US military analysis reported by ABC News predicted Kabul could fall within 90 days, but certainly not in a weekend. This is a crisis of untold proportions, Representative Jackie Spear told NBC News as the Taliban militants swept into Kabul. This is an intelligence failure. We underestimated the Taliban and overestimated the resolve of the Afghan army. But numerous US officials tell ABC News the opposite was true, insisting that key intelligence assessments had consistently informed policymakers that the Taliban could overwhelm the country and take the capital within weeks, essentially repeating the 1975 fall of Saigon. Remember, the one Joe said it was absolutely nothing like, when helicopters hastily evacuated diplomats from the US embassy's rooftop as the North Vietnamese army stormed into the South Vietnam capital. The Taliban, which has long called itself the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, announced they had entered Kabul soon after Afghanistan President Ashraf Ghani fled the country on Sunday afternoon, setting off a rush to the city's airport and a stepped-up evacuation of the US embassy by a fleet of military helicopters. US leaders were told by the military it would take no time at all for the Taliban to take everything, an anonymous US intelligence official told ABC News, but no one listened. Other intelligence sources said that Biden and his team of advisors had reached their decision about the US military's withdrawal, which was all but completed on July 4th, based on a variety of factors that went beyond Kabul's fate. The intelligence community assessment has always been accurate. They just disregarded it, the official told ABC News, speaking about the Biden administration. So again, remember, it was the other guy that didn't listen to advisors. It was the other guy that was going to go and do things his way and fuck everything up and not listen to those around him. In fact, you know, multiple times people said, oh, well, you're not listening to the intelligence community on Russia and that Facebook group that definitely hacked the election. Well, what now? What now for Joe Biden? Now that, again, a humanitarian crisis that we can all agree could have been averted, hasn't been averted, is unfolding with all of the intelligence community who, depending on whether or not they're against Donald Trump, the media hold up as either, you know, saints or sinners, right? You know, the same people that hack your fucking phones, by the way. But, you know, hey, they don't like the orange man. So these are great guys. They are saying Joe Biden didn't listen to all of their intel reports. Now, let's get to the good bit. The emergence of Joe Biden, right? And while we're there, you can see this is again back on August the 16th. We had this little statement. First of all, this was a statement he delivered, reading off a teleprompter, and then literally, you've seen the meme, he turned his back, he walked off, didn't take any questions, the man who doesn't shy away from questions. But here he goes. This is where he said, I regret nothing. I regret nothing.
What's happening now could just as easily happen 5 years ago or 15 years in the future. You have to be honest. Our mission in Afghanistan is taking many missteps, made many missteps over the past 2 decades. I'm now the 4th American president to preside over war in Afghanistan. 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I will not pass this responsibility on to a 5th president. I will not mislead the American people by claiming that just a little more time in Afghanistan will make all the difference. Nor will I shrink from my share of responsibility for where we are today and how we must move forward from here. I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me.
Indeed it does.
I'm deeply saddened by the facts we now face. But I do not regret my decision to end America's warfighting in Afghanistan and maintain a laser focus on our counterterrorism missions there and other parts of the world. Our mission to degrade the terrorist threat of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and kill Osama bin Laden was a success. Our decades-long effort to overcome centuries of history and permanently change and remake Afghanistan was not, and I wrote and believed it never could be. I cannot and will not ask our troops to fight on endlessly in another country's civil war, taking casualties, suffering life-shattering injuries, leaving families broken by grief and loss. This is not in our national security interest.
So there you go. I'm sure it's a comfort to everybody. Joe Biden regrets nothing. Joe Biden doesn't regret any of it. The people who are being executed now, soon to be executed, the people who will be stranded and at best will have to just acquiesce and live under Taliban regime. That's the best case scenario for them. I'm sure they're happy that you don't regret anything about how it panned out. Of course, as well, just to remind you, by this point, as Joe Biden emerged, it was becoming increasingly known that, look, this is another report from Reuters. Officials say the military had been telling the White House they were ready to do more in terms of basing and flights for the evacuating Afghans, but nobody made a decision until it was too late. Officials tell Reuters that an address from Biden today, well after the Taliban military advances began, is far too late. They added that some of the defenses given by the White House, including NSA Sullivan earlier today, are baffling. So the intelligence community, the military, they are not vibing with it at all, and who can blame them? Now, we need Biden in front of a camera, and we need him talking about this at length. So, the problem we've got is his fucking brains are applesauce. So we cannot put him in front of live cameras, especially when he's tired. He's very sleepy at the moment, not getting a lot of sleep. And that's really bad. And he can't read off a teleprompter when he's tired and his eyes start to sag. So what do? We have to sit him down with a journalist, one that is a halfway, that we know he's kind of a friendly because he was anti-Trump, but also can't be too friendly because we are going to have to fucking face some serious questions and show some contrition. So this is where they bring in ABC's George Stephanopoulos and they sitting down in front with him. And so, perfect, pre-recorded, pre-approved, pre-screened and vacuum-packed. Not even Joe can fuck this up. Or can he? Let's have a listen to what he had to say in this clip.
When you look at what's happened over the last week, was it a failure of intelligence, planning, execution, or judgment?
Look, I don't think it was a failure. Look, it was a simple choice, George. When the Taliban, let me back it, put it another way. When you had the government of Afghanistan, the leader of that government getting in a plane and taking off and going to another country, when you saw the significant collapse of the Afghan troops we had trained, up to 300,000 of them, just leaving their equipment and taking off. That was, that's what happened. That's simply what happened.
But we've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
What did you think when you first saw those pictures?
Just as a point of information here, at the time of this interview, it was 2 days ago, not 4 or 5, which should give you an idea about Joe Biden's ability to measure time. But also, on top of that, would it make any difference that a teenager fell to his death trying to flee an oppressive regime you have enabled to take over the country through your incompetence? Would it matter really if it was 4 or 5 days, guys?
What I thought was we have to gain control of this. We have to move this more quickly. We have to move in a way in which we can take control of that airport. And we did.
So you don't think this could have been handled, this actually could have been handled better in any way? No mistakes?
No, I don't think it could have been handled in a way that we're going to go back in hindsight and look, but the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happened.
So for you, that was always priced into the decision?
Yes.
So there you go, from the horse's mouth. This was factored in. Yeah, you can't have it both ways. Either you didn't foresee it, and it's incompetence, or you knew it was going to happen, and it's fucking malevolence. Take your pick. I don't care which. I just want you to be fucking consistent in how you criticize your political figures. That's all I want from an American. Another story broke. Fox News did the classic Republicans pounce. ABC had to publish a transcript of the interview after they were publicly accused of editing parts of the interview to make Joe Biden look more competent and well and healthy than he was. And there was one particular concerning passage, and let me just find it for you, and I will read it to you. I mean, just before we get to the smoking gun that he's not well, I mean, look at this for a quote. There's still a lot of pandemonium outside the airport. Oh, there is, but look, no one's being killed right now. God forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but no one's being killed right now. Spoiler, people are being killed right now. Like, I can't show it to you. Just Google what happened to the police chief. Warn you. It's bad. Anyway, right? Here we go. Once again, forgetting key details about his dead son, which I've seen before. And listen, I say this, it's fucking sad, guys. It's fucking sad. This is an old man with an illness. He shouldn't be the president. He's not fit to be the president. And every time I see him, even forgetting details of his beloved family members, it makes me fucking sad. Because I've seen the horrible face of Alzheimer's and dementia, right? Up front, up close and personal. But at the end of the day, you've taken the mantle of leadership, and this has to be fair game. So he said, when asked, right, I think a lot of Americans and even a lot of veterans who served in Afghanistan agree with you on a big strategic picture. They do believe we had to get out. But I wonder how you would respond to Army Special Forces officer Javier McKay. He did 7 tours. By the way, what a fucking legend. Like, fucking 7 tours. Doesn't have to fucking drive anyone crazy. He was shot twice. He agrees with you about withdrawing. He says we have to cut our losses in Afghanistan. But he adds, I wish we could have left with honor. And then Biden goes, look, that's like asking my deceased son, Bo, who spent 6 months in Kosovo and a year in Iraq as a Navy captain and then major, as an Army major, and I'm sure he had regrets coming out of Afghanistan, Iraq. Now, ABC did the president the solid of cutting that out. Like, what? I don't know what it's going to take. Like, how many times this guy's grip on reality and history is going to fucking slip, but this is the guy you all voted for. You all saw this. He did this a million times on the campaign trail. Anyone acting surprised is a disingenuous fucking piece of shit. Just to underline again, you heard it from Joe. You heard him say that this was essentially the price of admission, a pull-out of Afghanistan, and that he'd factored in. Once again, White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield from that longer clip earlier, just to highlight this part, as reported by The Hill.
It's not something that all just happens. This is the result of planning. I know there's been a lot of...
This is the result of planning. This is the planning.
How things have played out over the last couple of days. But the truth is, the president prepared for this possibility. He pre-positioned troops in the Gulf who were able to rush in immediately. We are working every day to do everything that we can to ensure that we're able to get more people into the airport in an orderly manner. Of course, the images that we're seeing are heartbreaking. They're appalling. It is a scary moment.
You did them.
It is unacceptable to the president. He has directed his team to
He literally said the opposite.
The specific logistics of how our troops on the ground who are putting themselves in harm's way, putting themselves at risk to get people out. That's something the Pentagon is going to be able to speak to in more detail than I am. But what I can tell you is that the president is laser focused on this, that he put plans in place.
Laser focused. I love, by the way, that it's such cynical bullshit that even in the midst of a crisis, they came up with a slogan to hammer down the throats of people watching it. So the drones go, but Biden is laser focused. That guy couldn't be laser focused if he was made of pure fucking light. He's gone. There is nothing upstairs. He should be sat on a porch in a rocking chair. For fuck's sake. So, we also enter into a very weird world where we have to pretend the Taliban are potentially nice folk. Because Biden has fucked up so bad, they can't openly condemn, insult, or attack the Taliban. And instead, we all have to sit here and pretend the Taliban are just another, world leader, just another political party, rather than the murderous fucks that they are. Because if we criticize them, what might they do? If this is them playing nice, what might they do if they agitate them? That's how bad things have fucking got. Here's Jen Psaki again when she was in the office this time. She said they want the Taliban to have a think about what their role's going to be in the international community.
The Taliban also has to make an assessment about what they want their role to be in the international community.
Terrorists, they decided that. They made up their mind on it. Radical Islamic terrorists, they chose that. They're all right with that. They've made that decision. Then, and this is like a fucking satirical fucking sketch. Listen to this.
The UN Security Council issued a joint press statement earlier today calling for a new government that is united, inclusive, and representative, including with the full and meaningful participation of women. The Council spoke with one voice to underscore that Afghanistan must abide by its international obligations, including to international humanitarian law, and ensure the safety and security of all Afghans and international citizens.
I don't know, man. Maybe I did do a bad fucking trip and I'm still in it. That's the only scenario I can think of where a US government official coming out and saying, hey, Taliban, we insist you make an inclusive and representative government, including women in it. I'm staggered. Do you understand what these people believe and how they enforce their beliefs? The worst part is the Taliban have been doing a press offensive, and because American society is so fucking dumb, they just get to dunk on the US in these press conferences. There are pictures of the Taliban posing with ice cream to mock Joe Biden. No joke. There they are. Hey, we like ice cream too, buddy. But again, they've wasted no time in dunking on the aspects of U.S. society and the U.S. government. Check out this from a press conference. This is the Taliban being asked a question about freedom of speech.
دا سوال خو باید د فیسبوک له ادارې سره وي د بیان د ازادۍ دعوت دوی کوي او دلته خلک د بیان د ازادۍ.
This question should be asked to those people who are claiming to be promoters of freedom of speech, who do not allow publication of all information. I can ask Facebook company. This question should be asked to them.
Imagine if you're the head of the Taliban getting to dunk on Facebook over their censorship policies. Like, what a fucking... And the thing is as well, this is the type of shit it leads kids to go, well, you've got a point, they're based. The Taliban are right, they're not. They're a monstrous fucking regime. But this is just how dumb American society's become. That literally the leader of the Taliban can sit there and have, like, critiques of what they're doing in terms of freedom. They also added, right, and... this is just, again, also, like, satirical. Afghan women will have rights within Islamic law. That was what they said when couched on the topic, what will happen to women under your regime, in your government. Zabullah Mujahid said all Afghans must live within the framework of Islam. and that we are going to allow women to work and study within that framework, women will be very active within our society. Now, just in case the US has forgotten, you can go and read. This is on the US government state website, right? Which is the Taliban's war against women. And here it details how they were not allowed to have health care, how they weren't allowed to study. I don't really think the Taliban's probably got woke and updated its shit. It's a whole list. Not to mention, why don't we go to Amnesty International and hear a little bit about how the Taliban treat women who are going to play a big part in their society. This is from, again, a press release on Amnesty International. Harrowing accounts emerge of the Taliban's reign of terror in Kunduz. Let me just read you one paragraph. One woman who provides assistance to victims of domestic violence in Kunduz had to escape to safety in a nearby province after Taliban fighters were using a hit list to track down targets, of which she was one. The woman said the Taliban's roadblock on exit routes from the city forced her and numerous other women and men to flee on foot. They trekked for more than 7 hours over rough terrain, leaving them exhausted and with bleeding feet. When the Taliban took control of the National Directorate of Security and other government and NGO offices in Kunduz on Monday, they gained access to reams of information about NGO staff, government employees, and members of security forces, including addresses, phone numbers, and photos. Since then, Taliban fighters have allegedly been using young boys to help them conduct house-to-house searches to locate and abduct targets, many of whom are women. Another woman human rights defender had her home and office burned and looted by the Taliban on Tuesday night. Taliban fighters kept calling her to ask about the whereabouts of other women that she had been helping. According to local activists, Taliban fighters also raped female relatives and killed family members, including children, of anyone related to police commanders in soldiers, especially those who had worked with the ALP, the Afghan local police. The Taliban burnt down families' houses and looted their belongings. Remember, Joe Biden doesn't regret any of this. The relative of a woman who worked as a midwife in Kunduz Maternity Hospital told Amnesty International how Taliban fighters gang raped and killed her and another midwife because they accused them of providing reproductive health care services to women in the city. So, yes, when they say women are going to play a part in their society, I dread to think what that means, and I haven't even regaled you with their atrocities from the 90s or what living under the Taliban is like for the people who are there. Trust me, we will get there. Bizarrely, tech companies have been approached. What shall we do about the Taliban and its presence? Now, for me, I thought after January the 6th, I thought we were very clear on the rules. That's domestic terrorism. Terrorism bad. Terrorism can't be promoted through social media. The social media companies will not allow it. They will not stand for it because it is a violation of their rules. However, Twitter has said the Taliban can actually have a Twitter account to disseminate its information, provided it obeys its rules. Remember, of course, a few years ago, before they got a hard-on for Trump, it was reported that Twitter was actually a hotbed for radical Islamic terrorists, and they were using it to coordinate actions around the world. So the Taliban, they're probably going to get a blue check mark. The other guy, no, you can't hear from him. January the 6th, bad. In fact, January the 6th was very much on people's lips because anyone like me who dares to say anyone who thinks January the 6th was a coup attempt, there's a report today been released by the FBI that sort of discounts it, says there was absolutely no evidence of any collusion from the disparate parties. Spoiler, a coup has to have a plan. But no, what they want to remind you is the Taliban's actually not that bad. Certainly not compared to those people. Here's everyone's favourite DNC comedian, has done active campaigning for DNC operatives related to DNC politicians. Don't worry about it. What's he got to say?
Right. We've had troops there for 20 years. They fought. They sacrificed. Their families sacrificed so that we wouldn't have a terrorist attack in America planned in a foreign country. Why should our soldiers be fighting radicals in a civil war in Afghanistan? We've got our own on Capitol Hill. Then Biden pointed out the U.S. did everything we could for the Afghans.
We gave them every tool they could need. We paid their salaries, provided for the maintenance of their Air Force. We gave them every chance to determine their own future. What we could not provide them was the will to fight for that future.
Just a thought. Maybe we should have checked with the Afghan army if they had the will before we gave them the tools and the weapons, because now the Taliban has the will and the weapons. And the former Afghan army soldiers are at home rubbing Miracle Grow on their face, trying to squeeze out a beard by dawn.
So, don't worry about it. I mean, I like the intimation that the Afghan forces are cowards, and again, when you look into the loss and the corruption and salaries, but that's okay, that you have that talking point. We've moved on since then. The news moves fast. The idea that you can compare January the 6th to the fall of Kabul is, like, obviously just nominally stupid on its face. But again, the idea that to compare Trump voters to the Taliban, this is healthy rhetoric, Steve, and I'm glad this is the type of comedy that's being pumped out on television. I foresee no problems within American society. Don't worry though, Michael Moore, in between diabetic comas, he decided to come out and fucking give his own look. You see, he's got a hat and a beard, and they've got a hat and a beard. They're Taliban, our Taliban. Everyone's got a Taliban, apparently. They're at their best when they confiscate the halls of power. That's what Michael Moore had to say about that. Now, I just want to also remind you of a few things before we wrap this up and sort of end on I'm going to try and spin it round so we have a little bit of comedy at the end. Now, Biden, one of the things he said in that ABC interview, he kept bringing up bin Laden. Remember, by the way, he's publicly on record as saying he told Obama not to kill bin Laden. Largely irrelevant because all the information around bin Laden are complete lies and propaganda, isn't it? But nah, it's all right. Don't worry. Don't think about how he got progressively younger in those videos. Don't worry about it. Go back to bed. Right, so here we go. He actually said that will Afghanistan look the same now with the Taliban in charge than it did 20 years ago? And he said, no, there was a guy named Osama bin Laden still alive and well. And what's mad about this, right, is he doesn't seem to know his history, because Osama bin Laden, as I said earlier, he wasn't in Afghanistan. He was in the US allied Pakistan, and we knew he was. Intelligence pointed to that. But here's the other interesting part, right, that people forget. This is as reported on Al Jazeera from that time. Again, people who had to live through the post 9/11 insanity, we remember these things. Well, at least some of us do. Here we go. This was the Taliban offered Osama bin Laden up to the American government, and they said, no, we're having too much fun with this war on terror and all this free oil and opium, like you mad cunts. The Taliban said, yeah, we'll give him up. We'll totally give him up. When the American government turned that down, the Taliban even said, okay, we'll have a trial for him here. We'll go get him from Pakistan. We'll bring him here and we'll have a trial for him. And the US said, nah, we don't trust you to do a proper trial. So I don't know why he keeps jabbering on about bin Laden like the Taliban wouldn't have sold him out in a fucking heartbeat. So, one thing I did say I was going to end, because all the people, by the way, were laughing at the memes of the Dodgems, all the people that are laughing at the memes on social media, all the people that are kind of blowing this off and thinking it isn't going to be a full-blown humanitarian crisis. I know certainly the Biden administration is fervently hoping you will treat this as if it's just a bad, mean tweet and that he's actually going to forget about it. You're going to forget about it. Spoiler, most American voters will forget about this by Christmas. And provided there's an economic upturn, everything's going to be good. You've got over 3 more years of this, by the way, people. This is what you chose. But let's just go into this. I urge anybody, because everything gets memory hold now. If you care about learning about the Taliban in the 90s and what they did to the people of Afghanistan, you can go to Human Rights Watch. There's a report called Bloodstained Hand, Past Atrocities in Kabul and Afghanistan's Legacy of Impunity. It was written on July the 6th, 2005. It's a lengthy read. I'm not going to get into it here. But the bottom line is, you have to go and get things that were written near the time, so the American media and the spin machine can't rewrite them and tell you what actually happened was this. You have to go back as far as you can. It's exhaustive, it's thorough, and I defy anyone to read it and not be disheartened that these motherfuckers are back in charge of a country where they are going to commit further atrocities. Make no mistake about it. Just because they can do a few dunks at a press conference doesn't mean they've changed on any level. And so I'll just read you an extract from Life Under the Taliban. This is what's in store for the people left behind. This is what's in store for the people. This is what living under the Taliban was like, assuming they didn't drag you out in the streets and kill you or rape you or burn your property. During the 5-year history of the Islamic Emirate, the Taliban regime interpreted Sharia in accordance with the Hanafi school of Islamic jurisprudence and the religious edicts of Mullah Omar. The Taliban, of course, forbade pork and alcohol, but they also forbade many types of consumer technology, such as music, television, and film, as well as most forms of art, such as paintings or photography, male and female participation in sport, including football and chess, in case you are wondering why a young footballer would cling to a plane and die. Now you know why. Recreational activities such as kite flying and keeping of pigeons or other pets were also forbidden, and the birds that were caught were killed in accordance to the Taliban's ruling. Movie theaters were closed and repurposed as mosques. Celebration of the Western and Iranian New Year was forbidden. Taking photographs and displaying pictures or portraits was forbidden, as it was considered by the Taliban to be a form of idolatry. Women were banned from working. Girls were forbidden for attending schools or universities. Women, they were also requested to observe purdah and to be accompanied outside of their households by male relatives at all times. Any who violated these restrictions were punished. Men were forbidden to shave their beards and required to let them grow and keep them long in accordance to the Taliban's liking. They were forced to wear turbans any time they were outside their household. Any communists were systematically executed. Prayer was made compulsory, and those who did not respect this religious obligation after the azan were arrested. Gambling was banned. Thieves were punished by amputation of hands and feet. And as of 2000, the Taliban leader Mullah Omar officially banned any form of opium cultivation and drug trafficking in Afghanistan, which is, by the way, how these farmers, a lot of them, were pulling themselves out of poverty. Not that I support it nor condemn it. The Taliban succeeded in nearly eradicating the majority of opium production by 2001, and under the Taliban governance of Afghanistan, drug users and drug dealers were prosecuted and executed. If you wonder, by the way, how the Americans were siphoning money to the Taliban, turns out they had a good policy on the war on drugs that actually benefited America, killing drug dealers and drug cultivators. That's what they are like. That's what it will be like, and that's what it will always be like. Their laws come from biblical times. They haven't updated. Just because they can figure out how to take a fucking selfie or use a warjack meme on Twitter doesn't mean that is not going to be the same end goal for all of the people who are left behind. That is coming, and that is why it is essential that people are evacuated, and that evacuations take as long as they fucking take. And so I eagerly await hearing more about how Joe Biden is the man to lead us out of this. As I sat down to script this out for today and basically get you all up to speed with everything you need to know, hopefully free from media spin, he actually had done another press conference. If you can stand the cringe, let's go through a few.
Of America's finest fighting men and women.
Right. Let's start here. These were combined by Tom Elliott.
We paused flights in Kabul a few hours this morning to make sure we could process the arriving evacuees at the transit points. But our commander in Kabul has already given the order for outbound flights to resume. Even with the pause, we've moved out 5,700 evacuees yesterday. And we're working on a variety to verify that number of the Americans are still in country as we work on this, because don't have the exact number of people who are Americans are there, and those who may have come home. We paused flight and then at the Kabul airport, and we're putting their lives on the line, and they're doing it in a dangerous place to save other Americans, our Afghan allies, and citizens of our allies who went in with us. You know, I talk to our commanders on the ground there every single day, as I just did an hour or so ago. And I made it clear to them that we'll get them whatever they need to do the job. They're performing to the highest standard under extraordinarily difficult and dynamic circumstances. I made this decision. I was at the G7, as well as met with our NATO partners. And I told them all, every one of them knew and agreed with the decision I made to jointly end our involvement in Afghanistan. The first part of your question was, I can't remember now.
Would you commit to the same commitment? Would you make the same commitment to bring out Afghans who assisted in the war effort?
Yes, we're making the same commitment. There's no one more important than bringing American citizens out. I acknowledge that.
Military has secured the airport, as you mentioned, but will you sign off on sending U.S. troops into Kabul to evacuate Americans who haven't been able to get to the airport safely?
We have no indication that they haven't been able to get in Kabul through the airport. We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through. It's in their interest for them to go through. So we know of no circumstance where American citizens are carrying an American passport or trying to get through to the airport. But we will do whatever needs to be done to see to it they get to the airport.
So, just contradicted everything else he said. Oh, Lord. So there you go. Joe Biden, clearly the man for the job. Clearly a competent guy. Clearly going to get us through this humanitarian crisis he's specifically created. And if you think otherwise, you're just a filthy, racist Trump supporter. Remember, you can't criticize the DNC. That makes you a Republican. Doesn't matter that you don't live in the country. Doesn't matter you can't vote in their elections. You're a Trump supporter. You must be. How could you not see the true greatness of Joe Biden? What a crock of shit. And so, as a palate cleanser, just before we leave, I will give you something to have a little chuckle about. It could be worse. You could be Spain, right? This is a story about how the Spanish government was struggling to get people out. There are a few Spanish citizens out there, and a frog account negotiated with the Taliban in place of the Spanish government. There it is. Twitter frog account successfully negotiates with Taliban to secure safety of Spanish diplomats. There's the account. So you can go and read this story if you're interested in it. But the bottom line is, yep, the Spanish government was struggling to negotiate with the Taliban. So some random Pepe wielding account on Twitter basically said, look, let the diplomats out, mate. And they said, all right then, we like Pepe. So, what a fucking planet. What a planet. What a time to be alive. Right, there you go. I think that's your fill. I brought you up to speed on esports. I brought you up to speed on Afghanistan. As I always do with my sign-off, that was the news. I wish it wasn't. And, yeah, your generosity and your support is why I am here doing this. So, Take care. Watch the horror unfold from a safe distance. And I'll be back in a day or two to talk about the rest of it. Peace.